Alright, what I use here are these are essentially welder's clamp. I use them everywhere. I've used them to take off bad oil filters that just won't come off. You can clamp them on and twist. But I'll use them to compress right here. See if I can once again get a decent place to hook my... A little cramped in here, so trying to do this without blocking your way. So here I just screwed in. I can feel the... Yeah, it's got give. It may be all I have. So let's just give it a try. I may have to release the brake fluid in order to get there, or I may have just enough room. It looks like I'll have just enough room. So what I'm going to try to do... Yeah, it's already well over there. So... try to get this thing wrapped in place. And then I could release the brake fluid just a little bit. I might do that. The brake bleeder is... Put my finger on it, I can't see where I am here. It's right there. So I might release this just to let this back out a little bit so I'm not forcing it on so badly. So let me do that and I'll get back to you. Well, I gave up on the bleeder nipple. It was just too tight, but I'm popping this in. And you can tell the fluid's backing up because this is getting easier and easier. So got to get it lined up with the bolt holes in the back. So I think we're close. And that's my next job, is to figure that out. Okay, well, it took a while, but what I couldn't get the banjo bolt off. It's not coming off. Or not the banjo bolt, the bleeder screw. So then I undid the banjo bolt right there, and that worked. Then it still wouldn't come on, and the reason was that, light's fading here. It's really not the time to be doing this, but this alignment bolt passes under and onto the, it's hard to see, but see, it passes under and will tie the caliper to the spindle, and it was being run into when I tried to hammer it, so I had to just push it back and everything was fine. So now I just have to put the securing bolts on, and this is getting worse by the moment, but they're these, and I ended up using a little bit of, and they go in right here, and I ended up using a little, I cleaned them off with a wire brush on my, yeah, see, they're not lining up, but I cleaned them up on a wire brush, and then I used a little bit of anti-seize. So I'm going to attach them. My focus is not working on this camera, so I'll do that off camera. Okay, well, it's not focusing well because of the light, but I did manage to get those screwed in. I had to use a towel and just push in and wiggle all this in here and align it till it would work. It's so slick now, I don't have enough back friction to tighten it. There it goes. Alright, so that one's on. I wish I had a short 1/2 inch, but I don't. So, note to self. So now we'll do this guy. Really cramped in here. Trying to give you a decent view of it, but yeah, you have to wiggle them quite a bit. I'll just keep hand spinning it till it's done there, and then screw it down. Yeah, the threads are good because it's going so easily, but and then it just suddenly cinches. I'll finish it off with a normal 1/2 inch wrench And then we just bolt the wheels back on. All right. Okay, the last thing I need to do here is this clip and this slide over each other. I'm going to use a little silicone here so this slides easily. And there's another one over here and one here. So I'll do that off camera. I'll show you the results just to get these back together so they're not flopping around. Okay, there was not one, not two, but 3 clips. I've got those all attached. Everything's in place, so I'm ready to put the wheel back on. I'm going to get rid of that rust. I'll use a little bit of, I already used some on the other side, a little light steel wool. Just to show proof, I've got the right front wheel on. It seems to be fine. And I have the left wheel removed, so I'm ready to get started on this one. I'll film this during the day. The worms decided it was a good hiding place underneath the tire for the few months it was sitting here. So that's on the docket for tomorrow. The part I'm going to show that's really rather important is how all the clips come off and how to get all that loose so that the caliper can come off. One thing I'll point out is I'm using this Gorilla tripod, and the only downside is it's the larger of the two, I think, but it's not really tall enough. I'm going to prop it up on the wheel or over here somewhere to try to get you a decent view, and we'll just go from there. Okay, well, it's daytime, so perhaps it'll be a little bit easier to show you what I'm doing here. First thing I'm going to do is unbolt that top, and it's dark, but this bottom bolt here, and pull the caliper out. You pop these off to let this stay while the caliper pulls out. There are no clips on the inboard brake, so that can come with the caliper. And since I've learned my hard lessons from the right side, this left side should be a little bit easier. Once that's done, we'll pull the hub off. I have a tough time with the camera aiming where my screen is. I get misled, but anyway, we'll do that and then replace the brakes and the disc after we repack and install the bearings. One thing I'll point out is I'm using this Gorilla tripod, and the only downside is it's the larger of the two, I think, but it's not really tall enough. I'm going to prop it up on the wheel or over here somewhere to try to get you a decent view, and we'll just go from there. Okay, we're in a good spot here, so we'll keep going. First thing is to take these out, the caliper retaining nuts. Got a good fit, and they come undone not too bad. The second one is down here, and get them just broke loose, which I was able to do, and they can be spun out. Well, I thought so. I keep thinking that. All right. You can kind of push down on the nut to kind of give it some friction, the bolt, to give it some friction against the threads so that it'll not go backwards when you release the ratchet until it's very, very loose. So that came right out. And we will clean the threads and put anti-seize on them when they go back in, although these are really good. Everything in the van is in good shape. The thing was very well treated in its life. That I'm not even going to try to take off. When I have the brakes bled, I'll have it done professionally, and they can replace those. It's not going to be my problem. I will squirt a little PB blaster on it. I used to use liquid wrench, but it seems like PB Blaster's taken over that particular. So the next thing to do is take these two clips, and as I pull this out, lift these up so they don't get caught with it. and the pads will stay and the caliper will move. I will separate these clips, which are never easy, but you spread them. There's a little spread on them. So we'll do that right now, since I will need to move the caliper and rest it on the ground or on some sort of platform. On the other side, it was able to rest on the ground and not give it too much stretch. They're not easy. I'm using silicone to push them back in. I'll spray it with silicone like I did on the other side. That was a good move. Okay, it's all released. Now I'll use the screwdrivers and do a little bit of persuasion. So this is kind of a two-hand job. He said hand job, but anyway. So that slides out. I'm disengaging it from the dimple in there so that it'll continue to slide, and I'll do the same on this side. I'm using the edge of the hub and the end of the caliper as a leveraging method, and sure enough, it's coming out a whole lot easier than the right side did. I sort of know what I'm doing now, so it's easier for me to present this to you. And there you go. So that was pretty easy. I'll pull this aside, lay it down. And it just has enough length in there to take some of the weight off the line. And this has a hard line, and they're in good shape. They can stay right where they are. Then these will come out by, let's see, I think I can release them outwards. Yep. Easiest way to get them out of the clips. And then I think the same on this side. Not hard at all once you know how. It was just kind of mystifying to me on the other side. So, and then slide that out, retain that clip. This one stays usually in place. It's just laying on top of this kind of anvil here. But on the top one, there's nothing to hold it in place much aside from the spring tension, so I'll just take it out, set it down. Now, let's move over and look at the dust caps. As you recall, they need a very tight little screwdriver to pry them out. Obviously somebody's bungled it here, and just be gentle. You just have to take your time and get in until you get the, underneath this lip right here, and it'll pull out. So that's the next thing we do. This is one of my favorite screwdrivers. I hate to ruin it, but it's really super thin, and I was able to get underneath that lip. Now I can pry it up gently in all directions, on all sides. You can see now it's starting to move, and that's how you preserve these things. I'll straighten out that one indentation when I get that far. In the meantime, there's gonna be a lot of grease flying around, so there you go. That comes off, and we're gonna get the pliers and take off the cotter pin, just pull out the little castellated sheet nut, and then hold this and unbolt the center spindle nut, which is at very low torque. As you recall, it's 12 to 18 inch-pounds, so that'll be easy to remove. Alright, so as I think you saw on the other one, they had clipped off half the cotter pin and left one, so they're in good shape. We can continue to use them unless they break, whereby I have a selection of cotter pins. So you get them as straight as possible so that you can reach into the loop on the cotter pin and pull them out, which I just did. And I'll just put that in the grease cup, and then you pull this little castellated nut, which just locates the cotter pin relative to the nut so that the nut cannot unscrew while you're driving. It's not likely, but because it's such a low torque, you have to hold all this in place. So you have to have a cotter pin and that castellated nut, or whatever you want to call it, to lock the position. And having said that, because the torque is proportional to the thread pitch times where you rotate it, there's increments of where you can locate the nut in here and allow the cotter pin to pass through. And so you know, there's only so much accuracy with the torque you can have. So I'm going to undo this next.